And we are live. My name's JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser. Today we are joined by Jonathan Bahai. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you today, sir?
Good, man. It's good to finally meet you. You were scheduled to come on our other show, The Philosopher, the Stoic, and the Teddy Bear, you and Tom, and I had to cancel on that episode. So
Yeah.
it's good to get you on. I want to learn about your new communications platform, Toto. Tell
Yes.
us tell us how this works.
Yeah. I'll tell you the journey just to get started.
Yeah.
We've been in development of this for a number of years. My background is in software and primarily in the blockchain space since 2014. So I'm kind of an OG in that kind of space. And so, of course, everything flipped upside down, topsy turvy in 2020. And suddenly I started to see how a lot of people in Canada and even in the United States were really struggling with being able to communicate with their elected representatives. And so it became apparent to me that the methods that we have now as people in our society, in this technological society now, like where we have all these forms of communication, it's becoming apparent that it's just creating a lot of noise, and the representatives we have don't seem to be able to hear any of it. Right? It's just a lot of static to them, and they appear to us, sometimes to just be doing what they want to, regardless of what the people want. So,
That's for sure.
yeah. So I started to see all these elements coming together. As the pandemic progressed, I saw how they attacked the words that were they were attacking words by themselves in terms of changing their definitions. They were using all kinds of psychologically manipulative methods. The media that just it was just a barrage of like psychological warfare that the people had no tools or any capacity to be able to withstand, if not um, uh, be able to counter in any kind of way. And when you consider the fact that we're living in an age of what military call fifth generation warfare, which is about information, not guns and bullets. It's all about information being weaponized. That creates a landscape where you have both civilians and combatants. There's no lines anymore. You're all part one and the same, and you don't realize you're in it. So you just become a very easy target. And so I started to bit by bit formulate that there needed to be some type of a mechanism that would allow the people to be able to rediscover the power of their words, rediscover the power of their voice. Because currently, lots of people say lots of things, right? they'll chat, chat, chat. They'll throw out opinions and all this kind of stuff, but it's all a lot of idle words. They don't actually put any kind of power behind them, even though that is actually the source of all our power. That is the source of the people's power, is the power of their voice. And as long as you're taking that voice and channeling it into a black abyss, then it's going nowhere. But if you can take that same voice and be able to harness it in such a way where it comes together, then and target it at the very place where power structures and power exists, now you can begin to wield some influence over that power. And so I started to formulate the mechanisms about how we can bring that together. And of course, it began with understanding that the pen has to become the sword. We need to be able to understand that our weapons, our words, can become potential weapons in this information age, which is, of course, fifth generation warfare, right? And again, it doesn't matter whether you want to or not, civilian or combatant, you're on the field, and you are completely helpless unless you find some way to be able to harness that power within you. And so, as a society as a whole, we're coming into this. Like I said, we're in this age. There's a lot of uh, noise that causes us to become disoriented, and it then comes into question, like, what kind of society are we going to be able to go forward? Like, how is society going to be able to go forward? As much as the people would wish that their representatives would listen to them more, or they want to have this or that, or they want to go back to the way things used to be, kind of ideals. How does that come about in this kind of age? Because you can't roll the clock backwards, right? Unless you're going to go really far backwards, like we're talking 200 years.
Mhm.
And I don't think anyone's really gone through that thought experiment to understand just how terrible that'll be. But I think that what we need to do is be able to have some mechanism that gives us a better, more efficient means to be able to empower our existing representatives. And this is the thing that I think was also missing from what's out there, because you see how the entire landscape has become completely divided,
Mhm.
right? And of course, that is a result of largely the existing system that we live under. And this causes people to become completely disenfranchised. We see that voter turnout is ridiculously low, and that in turn allows for the smallest elite to actually, and when I say elite, I mean like what we'll call a fringe minority, actually, to
Good
actually
term.
control the political power of a country, right? And this is, and while we're talking from you and I sitting on the East Coast in Canada, this is something that's happening all over the world, right? We see it everywhere. You talk to somebody, particularly in constitutional monarchies, they're seeing the same type of thing happening across the board. Now,
Yes. I just want to jump in for a moment because I want to speak to kind of what you're saying, the reason for coming up with Toto. It's like we're not just our voices aren't just being wasted or into the abyss. They're actually on these sophisticated algorithmic propaganda tools like X, where it's putting you in an echo chamber and it's showing you the antithesis of your ideology. So it's literally fomenting the division. Um, Again, I'm not going to speak to how that's working specifically, but I mean that's a huge problem. And what it is we're not coming up with any pragmatic solutions because we're seemingly weaponized against each other on a lot of these platforms.
that's right. That's right. And that's part of. I mean, I use the term abyss, but you're right. The algorithms largely turn social media into a mirror,
Mm,
so that everybody who's shouting out into the abyss is actually getting right back the echo of their own voice, and they're not actually getting into kind of discord, any kind of preconceptions that they have or prejudices are reinforced, by
mm,
the same thing. And this again just doesn't allow for the people to actually empower the capabilities of their voices, right? It just causes them to just be in an echo chamber, like you said.
mhm,
So, so these are some of the inspirations, you could say, that really powered that created the ideals around which Toto was created. So when we started building it, immediately I understood this has to be something that has a bottom up type of an approach. So many solutions out there, when you think about social media and everything else and the algorithms and things like that, they begin with some kind of where authorities are pushing down information. Our Toto was designed so that there is a communication channel for bottom up, and then making it so that those channels or the people that have to represent the people who are elected in whatever capacity they might be. It could be political. It could be something as simple as a school board, a local school board.
mhm,
There's all these types of places of authority that are given to people that need also the power of the people to be able to um, justify their decisions, right? So these people get into these positions, and I'm going to sound a little bit, what's a good word for it? A little bit empathetic, I guess, to the perils of leadership or being a representative. Okay.
mhm,
Most people don't think about that, but it's real. And so you have to first think that we're all people, right? And if you get into this position of power where you have to represent to people, immediately in our system anyway, in a lot of systems this happens, you are immediately met with existing bureaucracy or existing um, people of maybe greater power that come to you that want you to do certain things that may or may not be of the approval of the people you were supposed to represent, right? And then there is, of course, in cases of a political system, there are the party, right? And of course, having to toe the party line, right? So you get into that kind of situation. You are just a person. You have you're not wealthy. You don't have power, but you have these different signals coming at you about what you are supposed to do in your position. And especially when it comes to party politics, they have to toe that party line or they will kick you out in many cases.
Yeah, it seems representing your constituents, which is the premise of running for office, doesn't seem to occur in our system because, like you said, you're put in either camp. And then there's this strategy of tension. It's like, it's almost seemingly, I hate to go to the conspiratorial right away, but it's seemingly by design. And even if it's not, it's the functionality of it is just, it's consolidating power in the donor class, in this elite class, and it's disenfranchising the people. So this kind of presents a unique way to empower the constituency of Canada again.
Exactly. And like you said, I break it down basically as there's the NGOs, like non-governmental organizations, that tend to have influence over the party that you just talked about. And yeah, the party system, this is part of why, in principle, I'm nonpartisan. Not because I can't pick a team. It's simply because partisan politics doesn't allow for unity to happen. It strikes at the heart of unity. And it takes away the rights of the voter, right? So these are things that, in principle, I don't agree with. I think that the society would be better off without that type of system that relinquishes the power of the people to be able to have their actual voices heard. So, so in terms of so looking at that situation, you have a representative who is in this position. How do they be able to how are they be able to defend themselves against the party and the NGOs? Because they are just people, like I said, we've seen evidence that they are not particularly strong in principles or ethics sometimes, right? Or they are simply, they go in with the best of intentions. They're going to go in there and they're going to make it happen. And then they actually see, they actually pull the curtain to see the wizard, and yeah, he looks all powerful to them and they don't want to do anything. So I think that, so you think about that. How is it that the people can begin to get into first position of actually influencing that representative's decisions again? And that comes back to accountability. And that comes back to being able to give the signal in a targeted fashion that otherwise has just been noise, right? So right now, every representative all over the world are getting nothing but noise from social media, right? And they can't tell if it's real or not. Like, they are under the same algorithmic barrage that us plebs are. They're being hit left and right. They don't know if it's bots that are doing this. They don't know if it's the competing party that's actually doing this. They don't know if it's actually their constituents. And then at the same time, they are being told by the higher ups, you got to do this, this, and this. So if I'm just that guy in that position, and yeah, I'm getting paid pretty good money and they're promising me all these other things too, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take self-preservation. Right. And I'm going to just ignore whatever the people are saying because it's just noise. I've tuned out, and I'm going to go on with whatever it is, this thing they're doing. I can't see all the moving pieces, so it should be okay. This is government after all. What could they possibly do? I'm part of it now. Right. So this is the plight, you could say, of the elected official. Right. And so I know this sounds really like in most shows you'd never hear this, but
I think it's accurate. It's generous, we'll say, especially in this political climate. But I think it's accurate. I mean, they're not all inhuman. I mean, it's systemically corrupted, and they're functioning within this flawed system. So naturally, I think that's probably fairly accurate.
They're all people, and they're all flawed. And it's fair that some are more flawed than others, and those are the ones we see most. But But here's the problem. We need, if the people are going to be able to do anything about it, the best way to do it is to be able to create some kind of mechanism so that we can be able to empower those representatives to have the strength to follow the people, give them the signal that strengthens them to be able to fight against those NGOs and that party line. So imagine for a moment if they were using Toto, right? And this is what it was designed for. They simply, so let's say that there is a particular thing that you were focused on, a particular matter that matters, say Bill C9, right?
Mhm.
Now that is a national matter because that's a bill that goes across the nation, right? And so that's at the federal level. Toto breaks down, focuses into local, regional, and federal, right? So it could be local and regional in terms of provincial, and then there's federal. So this would be a federal matter. You would create a focus which talks about Bill C9 and your concerns with it and what you want to see happen with it. Let's say that you want to see it not pass, right? You want to see it squashed. I don't want modifications. I don't think this is good at all. It should just, this is not Canadian. This is what I believe, and this is what, as a Canadian should happen. So I do that. I create this focus that creates a staging ground for all other Canadians to be able to come in there and be able to focus, again, their voices in a meaningful way. Now, I told you that we created, like when we created Toto, we thought from the ground up. And it also came with, like I said, a nonpartisan type of principle behind it, which means that we honor every individual's voice in the process. So it all begins with the power of the pen, which is simply going back to the very format which every representative understands, which is a written letter, right? A well-worded, well-crafted letter that clearly gives your points and is sent to them via postal mail, right? So with Toto, you've created this focus, and as soon as you do that, you go to craft a letter based on all the information you provided. With AI that's built into Toto, it helps you to be able to craft that letter because, like I said, the power of our words and our ability to use words has been strongly diminished, especially in this electronic day and age where we're no longer we're just really not good at it anymore, right?
Mhm.
And so you can compare it maybe back to the 1970s where like people could protest and be able to organize and be able to harness their voices in an effective way. But today, we just don't see that anymore. And it's because it's been forgotten or lost. And you could even say algorithmically, black holed, to where people think all this noise they're throwing on social media is doing something now, but it's not. So you created a focus and now you've created a letter. You're going to send that letter, right? And then the next thing you're doing is simply sharing sharing. Action begets action. You share with others that you have sent a letter on C9, and for others who either feel the same or don't, you can be able to join the focus, and everybody would be sending letters to each of their MPs. This isn't the same as as some kind of a petition, right?
Mhm.
When the petitions are done, what happens is an MP first you have to, it has to be blessed to have an MP approve it, and it's one MP. And then what will happen is that everybody puts their signatures into it. That MP is only obligated to read it and then toss it in the trash can. There's nothing powerful about it. It puts on a good show.
Mhm.
But with this, you've created a letter. Now, when you sent that letter, not only is it going to your MP, but it is also being recorded into an unstoppable blockchain ledger. And that ledger becomes a forever record that is open, public, and decentralized. Now, this is where it changes the game in terms of like what we're dealing with, especially in this fifth generation warfare. Because the real problem that people have is not just about their voices being used, but being able to remember the things that happen in their life cycle, right? You look at people talk about how it's like, something happens in the news 2 weeks later, they're going to forget about it. It's true. And so the fight against power is the fight against not forgetting. And
Mhm.
so as long as people can remember the things that have been done, then they have this chance, then there is a chance for the people to say no to it. But if they forget about it and they're just presented with what's in the moment, then suddenly there's this shifting, right? So they've sent this letter, and now all that you have to do is simply be able to share the letter that you've sent or share the focus, and people do the same. So somebody else in another part of the country sends a unique crafted letter to their MP, and then another in another part of the country. So when all these MPs across the country at the same time are all getting this message from their constituents, that is a lot more powerful than just one MP who may or may not feel some obligation to their constituency. And it also sends a signal to the party as well. And if there's any kind of pushback from whatever higher ups might want to see this Bill C9, for example, then there is literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these individual letters which carry tremendous amount of weight, showing for the representative saying, look, these are my constituents. It's verified. If I say no to this, I'm done. Like there is a permanent record that's in the public, which gives me a report card, and they'll see that I completely ignored their words. Now, up until now, and the way it is now, it's easy to get away with that because we have a media that simply glosses over everything or just doesn't report on things. And then the people never know what actually happened. And when people start sending letters to representatives now, nobody knows what happens either. That's just a huge black hole in itself. Like, how many people actually sent letters? You hear people talk about it, but what really happened, right? So this allows for the people to not only hold their own voice accountable, because they will, by sharing with others and all of them actually participating in the process of their individual voice being heard, but this allows for the people to build their own database of being able to remember the things their representatives did and showcase it for other people as well at the same time. So come election time, we know the big media machine riles up and all these slogans start coming out and people are just being barraged everywhere, signal to try to do what they want you to do. Well, now you have Toto, which shows exactly what every representative did in the course of the time that they were representing their constituents. And you can judge for yourself whether it was actually for the constituents or if they were acting against the interests of their constituents. And now it's a
cool, man.
game changer.
It sets up like stats for them, essentially, just like a baseball player. Here's their stats, right? And then this is a public record, and it's attached to these people. So at election time, you can share this. You can look at this. This is actually going to have an effect on their bottom line, which is getting reelected.
Exactly, and that's where we're going with it. We want to make it so that as a communication platform, not only is it giving the people a really effective way to be able to focus their voice and hit the target, but it allows the representative to actually have the power of the people empower them, right? Because up until then, until that happens, the representative, like I said, he doesn't know from the noise what are his constituents. He can try to go up against the party and try to go up against the NGOs, but he has nothing to back him. It's just him by himself or her, right? And this makes it so that if his constituency, there was literally hundreds, if not thousands of letters exactly from his constituency that were basically saying, look, Bill C9 cannot go through. He can easily go against these powers and say, look, I've got my constituency verified here that are showing they will not stand for this. Like, not only am I going to be done as a representative, we will be done as a party, and we'll all be done, right? And that gives them the power to do it because they have the power of the people behind them, right?
It gives them a premise for the argument.
Yes,
it's like this is why I'm opposed to this, because I have a collection of my constituents that are sending me these letters. It's really good. It's a unique way to bring back a little accountability to a system that is very much lacking that.
Exactly. And so it's all about accountability, and which is, like you said, not just lacking, but it's the system in this current day and age, right? And we simply do not have the tools to be able. The people themselves have been left behind and ill-equipped to be able to deal with this age. And I that's just what I saw. So I just focused all my efforts and resources to building Toto. And Toto, by the way, is of course the Toto from the Wizard of Oz. And why is that? Because Toto, translated from Latin, means all together. And Toto itself, requires everybody to work all together to be able to pull back the curtain to reveal the wizard. And that's actually what happens in the movie. It was Toto himself that revealed the wizard when everybody all together pulled the curtain back, right?
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's
So it was
cool euphemism.
Yeah, it was a great. So and it just fits so well with what the application does, right?
So yeah, it's like you mentioned too, the pace of the news cycle, it really does. It's a constant barrage. So it's not even like it's like an overstimulation. You can't even focus on one avenue to fight or to push back because it's constant. And then, like you say, we're all on these algorithms and we're arguing with one another. It kind of cordons us off and pits us against one another. And we're not, as opposed to arguing or making your argument towards the representative, we're looking at each other. So I mean, this actually really creates a good way to facilitate this kind of unity.
Yeah, because like you said, there's this barrage that we're hit with, and that's classically what you remember the old circus where they had the lions, and this guy would literally be controlling a ferocious lion who could just tear him apart, and he would take this chair and he would like poke the chair in front of the lion. And the reason that they would do that is very interesting, because what it would do is the lion is like, he could pounce him and just rip him apart. We all know that. But when the lion's looking at that chair, he's seeing the four legs of that chair, and he can't focus because of this chair that's in his view. And he starts to just look at all these four things, and he becomes completely disabled. Like, now he becomes a kitten that can't tear him apart. And that's exactly what you said about how we're bombarded with all these different things to the point where we're completely disabled and we just don't know what to do anymore. We can't tear them apart anymore. You hear it every once in a while. It's like, there's more of us than them, right? And it's like, it's true, but and a lion could tear apart that guy, but it's not happening because of the action of dividing the attention. And to the point of how we become divided by the politics and everything else, Toto is designed in such a way where it doesn't matter. Like it's about the matter at hand, the focus, like the actual issue itself. So if you are for Bill C9, like you love the idea of that kind of censorship, or if you are against it, you can use Toto just the same. I remember when we were presenting Toto in a podcast one time, and somebody came into the chat and he's like, how do we keep these Marxist crazy people from using Toto? It's like, you don't, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you allow them to be able to have their voice as well. And if you want to make sure that doesn't have influence, then you better get using it yourself. Get exercise your voice, right? And that's what really has to happen. Like the people have to start exercising their voice again like a muscle, because right now it's atrophied. It's not, it's got no, like it's that people have forgotten the strength that they have. And I'm hopeful that with using Toto, they're going to be able to rediscover a way that they can rebuild that. There's actually like a means to being effective again, and then being inspired with that kind of hope that, like, you know what, I now have a system where I feel I know I'm not being ignored, and I can do this to help other people also rebuild the strength of their voice as well. So yeah, I'm just I think it's important that we stop looking at the people themselves, right? It's so easy to do because it's gossip, mm-hmm. but the thing is that we have to look at the systems, right? And that's where Toto really shines, because it actually addresses the shortcomings of the system in terms of not allowing for the people's voice to be heard, right? And it's through various mechanisms, whether it's algorithms or whether it's whether it's a constitutional monarchy or whether it's this and that. Toto breaks through all that. And the interesting thing is that some people have asked me, like they said, like, Well, what if I do all that and my representative, at the end of the day, they just completely ignore everything that we've done? Like, we send them tons of letters and they just do nothing. I was like, well, now for the first time, you have a open, public, decentralized blockchain record that is forever. It's going to exist forever, right? That is going to be able to prove to other people that that is the situation. It won't be some media story. It won't be someone who's partisan. It won't be whatever division, side you're on. It'll be simply individuals who have sent like what it is that they expect from their representative, and witnessing firsthand that they were completely ignored, whether you agree with them or not, right? So we have to get back to a place, if that ever was a place, to actually have representatives that are of the interest of the people that they represent, and make them first instead of last, which is the current situation. We all know this, right?
It's like a morale problem, right, with the electorate in Canada, and I think it's relative to the lack of accountability. We went through the Trudeau years with a plethora of massive scandals, and we never seen anything. Like, we had the foreign interference thing where the CSIS individual was saying all the governments have been compromised, and then they do the Hoax report where they investigate themselves, and then it's like, don't worry, guys, you were a little concerned, but we checked it out ourselves, and we'll ensure you that there was no wrongdoing. And then we just move on, and again, you're on to the next thing. So it's I like your metaphor with the lion and the chair. It has the misdirection aspect and the overwhelming with choice aspect, which kind of is this perpetual spot we're in Canada. But what's unique about this is it can truly empower some people, because more people in Canada do not even participate in our electoral process because they feel like it's almost like we're reaching a demoralization stage nationally.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something I actually had in mind when I was designing Toto, was that I didn't want this to be for the people who are actually the most active already, right? Like, they're gonna take their efforts. They're gonna have the extra uh, gumption and drive to organize and do all kinds of things. And again, that becomes like a fringe minority that actually drives those narratives. But there's this huge uh, component of our society that has completely ignored it, like you said, because they are disenfranchised by it. They are taught, in our country anyway, that, oh, if you want to be a good Canadian, whatever you do when you're sitting at the dinner table, don't talk about religion and don't talk about politics, right? And every Canadian across the country knows that's what you're supposed to do. And it's unfortunate because that is where all our power is. Like, that is
Those are
literally.
also the best topics of conversation. I mean, if
Yes.
you have an IQ above room temperature, that's kind of where the conversation naturally goes to. So we do, man. And it's, I hate to perpetuate this stereotype about Canadians, but it is, I think it's relative to this national conditioning. Because when you look at an apparatus like the CBC, that's a centralized, state-funded propaganda tool, essentially. I think the premise initially too, when they were discussing this, was to kind of create where Canadians would be so susceptible to American news and American culture. This was kind of to create some kind of centralized culture around Canadians who are we're very disparate groups. Like, you have Eastern Canadians, like in the Atlantic provinces, Central Canadians, which the Westerners call Easterners, in Ontario, Quebec region. Like, we're very different people right across the board. So I think that was an apparatus to literally influence and push some of this. I don't know, would you call it pacifism or neoliberalism, but I mean, it was very efficacious, because right now we have so many people that are still, especially the older generation, they're entirely just, they're almost mainlining that state-sponsored media, and they won't deviate from what it tells them. So they're not even willing to entertain anything that deviates from that main line.
Yeah. As far as the Canadian condition is concerned, this is largely due to our system of governance,
Mm,
right? As opposed to what we see in America, right? The tagline for being an American is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whereas the tagline for being Canadian is order, good governance. No, what was it? Good governance, peace and order, not in that order. So
Famously, too, Sir
yeah,
John A. Macdonald contrasted what Canada was going to be in comparison to America during the
yes.
Confederation debates. He really made it a point to clarify that this is a government that doesn't value liberty over protection and over centralization of power.
Yes. And so that is an inherent part of the Canadian culture. And like you talked about with CBC, that becomes a mandate for what they need to get into the minds of Canadians as to what it means to be Canadian. Well, it's meant, it means that you are good and polite, you are peaceful, you're orderly, and you believe in your good government, right? And that's the majority of people today. You know that from what we're seeing right now. And it is a contrast to the American culture, which is not trusting of their government. They hold them to account because they had the same type of system that Canada has today, which was a monarchy that was holding over them, and they just chose to no longer believe that a king should stand above all the people anymore. It should be the people that decide it because the people will be more aligned with the needs of the of their society than a far off king, which was the situation back then.
Mhm.
But today, Canada is the constitutional monarchy. It was the first of the constitutional monarchies in the world that gave a system of kingdom. Right? We have a political class that is effectively a king's class that are above the people, and we are subjects in that. And when I say subjects, I mean literally in
Mhm.
law, we are subjects. And it's you look at anyone who swears in to become a Canadian citizen, it will say right at the end of the paragraph talking about how wonderful it is you became a Canadian. You are a Canadian subject in writing, right? So it's not hidden, but it is diminished in discussion because that's the polite thing to do, right?
It's
It
hidden in plain sight, and
Yes,
Canadians, a lot of Canadians, what I'm finding, I'm encountering when I'm trying to speak of these issues is Canadians are it's beyond a lack of information. They have no idea what the functional premise of our Westminster parliamentary system is. Like they don't understand that like our Senate is elected for life and they have undue influence. They don't understand about the prevalence or the relevance of a privy council and all of these things that just work against the people really in some very real way. And then we have the House of Commons, which is supposed to be representatives for the commoners, and it's full of people that are beholden to their donors and they're stuck in this party system. And I'm like you, Jonathan, I don't want to be I don't want to just assume that all of these people are dreadful human beings and they're in there to just take advantage of their constituents. I don't think that at all. I think your characterization at the first of the show is very accurate, because that is how it's happening. These people aren't, just irredeemable tyrants. They get into a system that is systemically corrupted, and if they're going to function in it, they kind of have to have malleable character or integrity. And we've seen a lot of people that have had integrity in this situation, and they're pushed out. We had a conversation with Derek Sloan, someone who during COVID was very outspoken for his constituents, and that's what they do. They find ways to get you out of there using their party system. It's really bad. But one of the biggest problems with Canadians, it's just the information. Like, how can we even inform them that these aren't necessarily good things? Because I think if Canadians understood how disenfranchised the average voter and the Canadian electorate as a whole is, I don't think they would like that. I think they assume it is like America because of the cultural similarities.
yeah, we are treated. We think that we are like America, like you said, because of the cultural similarities, and because the truth is that I think CBC, like you talked about CBC and things like this, that I think we're meant to counter effect the effect that the Americans had on Canadians with
Yes.
seeing freedom and seeing rights. And the thing is that for Canadians, they see that and they think, well, we have that too, but we're better, right?
Yeah.
And then because we don't have this and that, and we're just better people, but we have the freedoms, we have the rights, and when effectually we don't, But because we watch all this American movies, American TV, and we grow up with it, then we take on those ideals that we do have inalienable rights. We do have, we are sovereign individuals. We are, all these things that are American, but they are in fact completely antithetical to what the Canadian is in true written form, right?
Mhm.
According to law, right? And to your point about how people just don't know, again, that's likely by design, although we were supposed to be educated in all of it back in the 1930s as part of the Westminster process. But the people were never informed, which is against UN Charter requirements. So so Canada as a government hasn't kept up their bargain in terms of the people's human rights when it comes to that matter. But with Toto, this was something I also saw. I saw how people were lost as to, and this especially was very clear in the pandemic, where you were seeing people just not knowing who they could turn to for, like, who's responsible, right? I even personally went through this process of trying to find out who is responsible for how could I get it so that my child at school was not to have to wear a mask, right? And I went through this loop to loop of calls like to all these different agencies that just went all over the place until I finally realized that there is nobody who's going to take responsibility because it's systemically designed this way. Like, you will just go through in circles forever and nobody is accountable. So with Toto, I realized that you need to take away that friction. You need to take away that cognitive load, so to speak, of understanding who needs to be contacted. So in the example I gave about Bill C9, right? Clearly, that is a federal matter, and so therefore it goes to the MP of your constituency, right? But if it was something that was a provincial matter, right, then Toto is intelligent enough to be able to actually give you the selection of, okay, who is it within the provincial level, the MLAs or MMLAs, or there's different ones across the country.
Mm.
Who is it that has to be contacted for this? Who is the minister involved in that? And so Toto helps to actually, when you're going through that process, when you create the letter, who it needs to go to have real effectual impact, right? So again, that's another part of why using Toto is so much more advantageous than trying to just send a letter yourself, is that it helps you to be able to hit the target right, and to help everybody else to know who needs to be targeted for the right type of impact on whatever the matter might be. Because we literally have in our system, most people don't know that there is thousands, like, never mind the elected representatives, but there are thousands of appointed positions within our system of governance. That is just a huge bloat of where all our taxes go. And each one of them has some type of tiny little power to be able to exercise in the authority they've been given. And sometimes that is who we have to direct to, not just our elected representative, right? And so Toto is meant to take away that friction and help everybody to overcome. Like I said, like it's like the muscle of being able to use your voice has been atrophied. Our knowledge of where we need to go to be able. It's like you're trying to lose weight and you don't know how to lose weight because you've always been eating Twinkies your whole life.
Mhm.
How are you going to do it, right? So
How
Toto
did
is
you
meant
know?
yeah. How do you know, right? Yeah. So and so Toto is meant to be to break through that and just be like, look, just follow these steps, and and we'll get you to looking like a superstar from America, like with all the rights and freedoms of someone who knows the power of their voice, right?
Well, it streamlines the process for people, and it really provides a powerful utility for them to use. I think it's great. I'm all for it, man. I hope it's immensely successful and we're able to actually see some change. For the last, I got you for another 15 minutes. Would you mind taking a couple of questions from the audience?
Sure, no problem.
Some of them are kind of comments, but we can kind of riff off them. So we got JT here. It's a great idea, and perhaps I missed it, but how do we actually get the constituents activated? If not a lot participate, then what? So
So
we were speaking to that for sure.
yeah, I talk primarily about what it means to the people, but there is the other side of that communication channel where not of so much interest to the people, but of interest to the people who are in that position. We've actually created a very powerful dashboard for their constituency, which allows them to be able to take in this information and be able to effectively manage it and gain the insights they need in order to, because like imagine, they receive like 1,000 letters, right? How is it that they're going to be like, not only is it the 1,000 letters that matters, it matters what's sent in those letters, right? So we give them a very powerful dashboard that allows them to be able to um, consolidate that. And the advantage for the representative is that when they join Toto, they will get acknowledged as a representative in the system. And then they're able to actually respond directly to a focus rather than just to the letters. And so that allows them to be able to showcase in writing forever that what their position is in response to the needs to the needs of the people, and that becomes a part of their report card. So if they ignore it, if they ignore what's being accumulated, then they're going to see like they're not going to look too good. But if they actually jump in and participate, they can be able to shore it up and actually look like a superstar. This isn't very good for those, I guess you could call old stock politicians. This is more for the new people who really want to have a real impact in this country, and they are just, again, they don't have any kind of advantage. This would give them a huge advantage to demonstrate to people that they are for them, and that at that point, if they're doing this, if they're using Toto as part of their platform, they are now actually focusing on the issues themselves, demonstrating that they are going to simply act on the input from their constituents. And there will be a public record of all of that, not only during election time, but their entire time that they are actually in office, right? And it also gives an advantage to those who want to go into office, where we allow them to be able to get on the bat. There's an ability to be able to become a community leader, and it gives them the same capability as elected representatives to be able to respond to focuses. So if come election time they decide that they are going to go up as a candidate, they now have this huge base of exactly what they would like, what they wanted to see happen, and what they're saying in writing what will happen. And they want to, and the constituency sees that, so they will be able to shift votes away really quickly if that's the case. So we actually have this whole back end for elected representatives as well as those that are candidates that want to engage. And it's that's where we charge a premium, because not only are they able to gain this communication channel, but we are incorporating some new features right now, which includes polls, surveys, and other types of aspects that gives them real gold standard information about what the people really want. And again, this comes to being able to get an actual signal versus a noise, because like polls and surveys that are done in Toto are not the same as the ones that you see like on X and whatnot. It actually is based on the letters themselves.
Mhm.
So we actually use AI so that you're taking the input of what people actually express to their representatives, and then it's converted into creating a poll, which allows for everyone to see what the actual results were from that in a format that people can digest better, right? That's what a poll is. It's a easily digestible piece of information, right?
Mhm.
The same thing with surveys. And so with this type of empowerment, representatives will be able to act on the behalf of the people, and those that have the good intentions that we talked about, they will actually be able to do it with real backing, right? They may not have money and they may not have power, but once they have the people, then they do have power, right?
It's providing them a way to get their message out by skipping all of that, because I mean, it's so affected by the donor class. If you're not
Yeah.
getting a lot of money infused into your campaigns, you have no hope of standing against this behemoth, the massive bureaucratic apparatus in Canada. So I actually have a question. So if it's kind of you're operating on the presumption that the politicians will actually utilize Toto. Is that right?
100%. Because what will happen is that they will receive these letters. And then, of course, as part of the process, we then contact them to let them know that, there is a profile pending for them to claim within Toto.
Mhm.
And so by doing that, they will have an efficient way to be able to respond to all these letters. And then, of course, gain all the insights and everything else that I just mentioned earlier. So yeah, representatives will be on there. Like our entire. There's also going to be an advantage to that because actually within Toto, once a representative, if you have your representative join Toto, then the constituents of that area no longer are sending physical letters to them. They'll simply be sending letters via the blockchain.
Mhm.
And when that happens, you are simply creating a permanent record of everything. There's no longer need for these physical letters, right? And it reduces the cost 10x at that point because instead of people having to pay to send letters all the time, they can be able to send them and they will be like 10 cents. So
So, so in a scenario where the potentially the representative might be older or he doesn't want to have that, like that's kind of, he's already kind of corrupted and he doesn't want to have that accountability factor, will this software or will this application still keep a public record of the letters that were sent? Yeah, so
yes,
that's huge. So it's like
yes,
at your own peril you don't
yes.
participate at that point, because if you don't participate on this platform, we're going to have like an accumulation of evidence that you haven't, right? We've sent you all these letters and it's all there in the blockchain.
Yeah, exactly. The only way to be able to move a wet noodle is not to push it, it's to pull it. So
Mhm.
what we're doing is creating a pull situation where all the people are pulling them into needing to use this platform in order for them to be able to justify their positions. Otherwise, there's somebody else out there that is, right? And the
Sure.
popularity of whoever it is will just explode because whatever your leanings may be, you're looking at something that is completely independent of any kind of media or any kind of leanings and whatnot. It's just here's what the people asked for, and here's how that representative responded to it. Is that what you want? And by the way, you use this, you can be part of that. You can actually make sure that your signal is being heard.
Mhm. No, it's great, man. I really love it. I'm very excited to see it start to actually be utilized. So we got Squirrel Nuts here. Colorful name, I know. Shared. So I wanted to take a moment to appeal to everyone. If you could share the link, it's very advantageous. There's something going on with X where they actually make people manually share it. Like the streams are not going to our profiles anymore. So it's taken my viewership down by a factor of 10. I usually would have, 800 to 1,000 live viewers. Now it's early right now, but I have 123 right now. So it's having a massive effect. So thank you for that, Squirrel Nuts. So we have another question here from JT, and this will be the last one. I'm worried about the disenfranchised. Even if activated, won't overwhelm the bloated bureaucracy, almost 25%, and those perpetually on welfare, governmental assistance, plus the new immigrants. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a concern, but I mean what we can't just be blackpilled on that sense. I mean we have to endeavor or at least attempt to push back.
So here's the truth. It takes 3.5% of a population to create a revolution. Historically speaking, every major movement within history has begun with a core of 3.5%. And once they got that, they inspired another faction of approximately 15%. Okay. So now you're up to around 18% of a population that is, let's say, against Bill C9. And then what happens then is interesting because there are in society at a societal level, and this isn't meant to put people down or anything, but at a societal level, there are typically what you could call sheeps and goats, and around anywhere from 40 to 60% of the population, it will essentially they're just looking at everything, and they are taking a herd mentality of, okay, which way do I go to be safe? Right? This is just a basic biological imperative of how we are as human beings. So they are just looking at everything, judging, okay, which way is the safe way? once there has been reached that critical mass of 18 point, it started with 3.5 and it was inspired, and then 18.5%, they see that and then they think, okay, that is the safe way to go. This is the way I need to go now. And so regardless of what they might have ever said in the past, because we've seen how quickly people can change, whatever it is, that herd mentality takes over and goes, oh yeah, for sure, I'm going to be against Bill C9, right? And they'll act like it's completely natural, like, yeah, of course, like these are the sheep per se that are just looking for the winner. Who is the winner that is going to protect me and I'm going to be safe? And that is a huge portion of like 40 to 60% of society. Toto is for them too, right? But it's going to take that small faction, that fringe minority that actually inspires the change. And so I understand these are huge. Like, I understand the landscape. I see it all the time, and I understand how he's feeling regarding to, like, it just seems like we're overtaken. But the truth is, if that you can get that small 3.5% going, and especially with Toto, I've taken away so much of the friction involved. Like, people, like, this is part of what I saw was, like, I was going to all the rallies, right? Like, I was going to every single rally that was happening anywhere in my area, like in Nova Scotia, and I was constantly going there and I was seeing nothing happen. Everyone rah, 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 and then nothing, right? And that was like, and just the effort I could see of the people who tried to organize that was tremendous. And only a few people would take that kind of effort. With Toto, the effort is literally just a few taps, right? And you're on your way. You are now just as effective as those people who were rallying, creating these huge rallies. But it's all in the palm of your hand. And on top of that, for the people who are those 40 to 60% inspired by your letter, it's very easy for them to simply tap too. So I've reduced the friction so that more people can be able to exercise their voice, and that is how you have a healthy democracy or republic, depending on what you're trying to create as a society. You have to have the people have a healthy voice, and right now it's atrophied.
I agree with that. So with the last few minutes, could you let everyone know where to find information on this, how to actually access this?
Yeah. So since we're streaming on X, you go to @useToto, @useToto, follow them. We have a great social media girl who's putting out stuff all the time that's really entertaining. But you go to usetoto.com, simply sign up and use it. It's very simple. It's designed as a progressive web app. So if you're using it in your phone, you can install it to your phone, but it's not going to be it's not released as an application now. And we did that simply to ensure that it can't be censored, right? So we're not being gatekept by Google or Apple to be able to get this out there.
It's an interesting workaround. Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you, Jonathan, for coming on to speak with me about this. I'd like to speak with you again in the future. I think we can get onto some really good topics for sure.
Yeah, I haven't even told you about self-sovereign ID, which is...
Oh, well, hit that up before we go. I'm in no hard rush.
Well, I thought that could be something we could follow up with, because part of what Toto does, there is the problem of like I talked about, verifying that the constituents are the constituents of a representative, and that comes down to being able to verify the person, to verify a person. And we've heard about digital ID, right? And we hear about all these, everybody is hoping that they can be able to impose that type of system, that they can tie in everything to it. But there is, in creating Toto, we realized we had to solve that problem because of the constituency situation. And we actually created technology that created a self-sovereign identity versus a digital ID. So you have complete control over your digital ID system.
I got to jump in for a moment here, man. Are you familiar with Crypto Spartacus on social media?
I think I've heard that. I think I've heard of him.
He had a similar concept. I had a show with him probably a couple months back now, and that's what he was saying. He's like, he utilized a really brilliant analogy for it. He says every technology that's introduced can be used against the people or with the people. against the state. He said guns are the same thing, and then sometimes the state utilized that against the people, and we've had subjects, and then in other cases, like in America, the people were able to free themselves utilizing that technology. So his premise is, it's like digital IDs are coming. You want to ensure that the people are controlling them, that they are
Exactly.
to the individual and not the state apparatus. And I just thought it was a really novel concept. I thought maybe you guys knew each other because you are along similar lines philosophically.
I think he's been in my spaces in the past. But
Smart dude, man.
did he do? I think it's called Vote Smash or something like
I
that.
think he did. He released something called the Neo Magna Carta, which is like a declaration for sovereignty of the. He's a very intriguing thinker. You gotta admire that name too, Crypto Spartacus.
Yeah, yeah,
Free the people using blockchain, which
yeah.
was interesting.
Yeah, I think I know who this is. That the more you're talking about it, he reached out to me a number of years ago, actually. But we haven't had any active conversations per se. But I think what I'm talking about, it isn't unique to myself. Obviously, when
Sure, yeah.
ideas come about, they're in the ether. It's just a matter of who's going to act on them and who's going to apply the right types of principles towards them. Because, like we said, it could be top down or it could be bottom up, and what matters is the principles that go into it, so that it creates that ethos that actually is for good. So, like you said, like you said, digital ID, it can either be used to empower us, and the people can take hold of it and utilize that, or we can just keep powering away from it and eventually just get stamped like whatever like they want to do. I think that, but in terms of application, I haven't seen anyone do what we've done, to be able to like really solve difficult problems. And the reason you don't see it is because these are difficult problems, and they're not just. It's not just in the technological solutions that come out. Like a lot of people throw around like, "Oh, use blockchain," and it's like it really falls apart once you start to dig into how blockchain is used. So you got to have the right elements, and that's where the design really matters. And
So now is this a separate endeavor, this sovereign ID idea, or is it attached to Toto?
it is somewhat attached to Toto because it is going to rely on Toto's blockchain, which is Toto chain, and so it will rely on that as the source of truth. And again, Toto chain is designed specifically, and again, that was something else we had to engineer specifically to be able to become a source of truth for the will of the people. Like that is all that chain is meant for, right? And so, as an for identity, when it comes to sovereign ID, it utilizes that as the decentralized ID base for all the people, and so it has that association. But WOOF is the name of the self sovereign ID system. It essentially is designed so that we can be able to offer it to big institutions, whether it be enterprise or government or all these places, so that they can incorporate a system that actually does create a self-sovereign ID instead of the digital ID. Because you got to think again back to these are just people, and like they have a mandate that they got to get something done, and there's all these guys at their door that are selling them these solutions that are generally more centralizing, right? And so if we can get in there saying, look, we can, and they're the reason it's gone slow, I like to believe, is because instead of taking the first solution that came in and said, like, okay, here's an ID system and we're all gonna control it, the people who had to do that were like, no, that's not good enough. We have to be able to. That's going to be, especially in America, that'll be against our Constitution if we do this, right? Whereas if we come into there with saying, look, we have created the self-sovereign identity where every individual will be empowered with controlling their own identity, and it will be compatible with all networks around the world, and we've met all these standards, then they'll be like, this is finally what I've been looking for. So all the better that these institutions are using that system, because now that becomes the platform that empowers the people instead of capturing them, right? So
yeah, I think that's inevitable. I think it's a really good idea to get ahead of it. So it's good to hear for sure, man. So before we go, Jonathan, could you tell my audience where they could find you and anywhere you would like them to potentially follow for information regarding all this?
Yeah, so I'm on X at Jonathan Bahai. I'm pretty easy to find. I have spaces every week on the topic of the 51st state. It's a community for Canada. We just have discussions, and yeah, I'm primarily on X, but I'm easy to find from there.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on to talk with me, man. It was a great conversation. I look forward next time I have you on, we'll get into the sovereign ID a little more and
Yeah. So
explore that topic.
next week, I'm actually going to be in Washington D.C. I'm going to be presenting it at Capitol Hill.
Nice.
So
Exciting.
yeah, I'll be giving a presentation both on Toto and on Wolf, and the topic will be around the will of the people. So hopefully after that, we'll have some interesting conversations to follow.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely like to get you on. Maybe on the philosopher, the stoic, and the teddy bear again. We get a bit more audience there.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot for coming out. I want to thank everyone for coming out to watch and for sharing. And if you guys could share again, I'll appeal once more. I derive most of my views after the live broadcast, so it still helps to share, even though we're towards the end. So with that said, thank you guys for coming out, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.